Hi everyone. I'm Ranjan, founder and CEO at Entropik Tech. We work in this fabulous space of emotion AI.
You would have often seen in Hollywood movies that they use a polygraph machine during interrogation to judge how truthful the suspect is. Imagine if a marketer could use a polygraph test to judge the response of his audience to his advertisement or product. Entropik is a company that makes this possible without needing an actual physical device. In this episode of the Founder Thesis podcast, your host Akshay Dutt talks to Ranjan Kumar, the founder of Entropik. Ranjan loves solving hard problems, and Entropik is solving a truly hard problem of how to read the mind of a consumer. They have built an AI powered platform that helps companies to decode the emotional state of consumers by using neuroscience and machine learning. This conversation is a masterclass in building deep tech products and scaling them globally. Entropic's most recent fundraise of $25 million is proof of the amazing business that Ranjan has built. Stay tuned and subscribe to the Founder Thesis podcast on any audio streaming app to learn about how to solve hard problems using technology and first principles thinking.
When we were running OAParty.com, we had a payment gateway at our platform called as Citrus Payments. And back then, we were about probably first 10 customers of Citrus Payments. So I got an interview and I said that, hey, I probably I knew how to, take the risk and start, but I had no clue how to scale because I had never done sales in my life. And sales, one of the most crucial things as a founder that you need to have. My co-founder was a lot more tech savvy. So we knew how to build platforms. We didn't know how to sell back. So I started looking out for job and next thing. And then my co-founder as well. So my co-founder landed in Oyo. So he was one of the first guys in Oyo to drive their growth function. And he later ended up heading the growth function for them. I, on the contrary, joined. So I got a call from Jiten Gupta. He was like, hey, we are just raised from Sequoia and this Series A had happened and they're trying to scale. I think back then it was still that basement office in Swati building in Valley and sort of early startup vibes. But I think hearing him was great. We met here in Cafe Coffee Day in MG. That was my 30-minute interview with him. And like, when can you start? I said that tomorrow. And the conversation was pretty candid, right? So I was with Jitin there. And Jitin had a thing about people. I think I still tell him that super sharp about people, how he selects and how he judges them very quickly. So I think it was primarily about what I am here for and what I'm supposed to get. And what I'm here for was very clear that I'm going to go back to my entrepreneurial journey. There's a part of my journey that I don't know how to scale and how to scale quickly. So I am here to learn that, right? And then I think Citrus was a fabulous time scaling. So I was the first guy driving the South business and then head sales as such.
So this was like selling to e-commerce companies, the payment gateway service.
So payment gateway services to all sort of e-commerce, consumer internet essentially, and then later also to quite a bit of B2B SaaS and stuff, but lead it not consumer. So the customers over by journey. We built out a Bangalore office, about 100 people. Overall company scale to sizable 500-600 people. We got acquired by Naspers, the PayU in 2016. Culture-wise, Citrus was a cool place because for the first time I was having a luxury of actually working with people. Because running my first company was you working alone and kind of
all in one.
You have a set of team with whom you are working, and while a lot of people who has come from big companies actually cribbed a lot about like, hey, we don't have enough team and people. For me, it was like, hey, this from 1% to 10 people. This is as it gets, right? So And I think there was no playbook of sales as such back then. It's not that now you have SDR, BDR, MREs and all sort of things, right? Jiten was brutal and he was like, boss, this is your account and this is your number. Don't ask me money for going into events. Just sell it. And how do you sell it? Have you seen how bank guys sell it? You just go.
Yeah.
That's how I sell it. And I think that very old school of that was my first stint at learning sales. And the only thing Jiten was counting on was, hey, this guy's been entrepreneur for 2 years. He would have learned a thing or two. And I think that was pretty much it. And I was ready to join tomorrow. So kind of started there. I think we did good wins in 2 years in South and that sort of quite a few countrywide accounts, in fact, right from Mintras to Flipkarts to Amazon, a bunch of it we won, which we didn't believe earlier that we can actually win. And I think one of the greatest realization was that when you're selling, you are not selling to companies, you're selling to individuals. And if you think that you're selling to Amazon, it's just flopped head. But if you think that you're selling to a guy who works in Amazon who lives next door to you, that's a lot more fast and efficient. So I think all those buzz and buzz around goes away, and then you're just talking to another person who's like you. So I think those were some of the early sort of learnings I still carry. And that was my time at Citrus, made amazing friends. And then it was a cash exit. So everyone made money.
Okay, you got equity, like you had ESOPs and.
Yeah. So kind of places where ESOP really worked means now there's a lot more generic concept of it. But earlier ESOP used to be like just another thing in the kitty note valued. And so yeah, I think Citrus was fabulous time. And upon exit to Citrus, I realized that, okay, I probably have learned a thing or two about sales.
No, you left Citrus when it got acquired by PayU?
That's right.
Okay. Well, like you thought that, okay, now I've learned enough, so time to get back to entrepreneurship.
So two things, I think that one, and as well as my clock was ticking, right? So this 2016, I've become 30. That's what I talked about from my Wharton call. I'm 5 years into it. I think I've learned more than what probably I would have learned going to B school, but I probably need to go and reapply. And I could see, I think at a certain point in time, you have too much energy and less of wisdom. There's a time when you have too much wisdom, but less of energy. Right. So you have to square off and plunge at a time when you have both at decent proportions. So it was a good time. And somehow since my ITC days, this thing of time value of things has always been constant to me, as in time is a crazy variable to deal with. And unless you play right with it, I find myself always losing. So I went back to starting my next company after Citrus exit.
Yeah, and did you have an idea in mind, or you wanted to spend a few months think and like?
So I met this person, Mr. Dilip Bhatt. He was a president at of operations at JSW Group, and person in his 50s and with wisdom and kind of looking to invest in young entrepreneurs and was wanting to be part of it more than anything. And I've never met a believer like him. So this was 2016, early when the exit information was out and the process was going on. So I met him and he was like, we talked about various things and various kind of ideas and things. I think it was very exciting the way he chose to believe in me over a set of conversations of various ideas and things. And I think I earlier thought that probably he doesn't know that much about space and all, and I got him tricked. But later I realized is that he had this insane ability to read through people. And there's nothing that I was thinking that he was not aware of, but he sort of, he understood that it's fairly, in your age, you will probably think like that. But I think what was fascinating to him was I was thinking of building something which is fundamentally different and very unique and very IP based and very uh, tech heavy. And there was a burn about my first company, which was primarily not being able to find differentiator early on. So I was clear that I will die fighting a problem statement than a competition.
No, that's
So,
a nice approach. Very
uh,
nice.
and it was something that came out of, from the days of my JE preparation, IIT exams. Whenever there used to be this very hard papers, right? I was super happy because my margin of error was very high. A hard paper where your cutoffs are 10 marks out of 100, I will do a lot better in those than the exams which were easier, because here and there small plus 1 marks, minus 1 marks, and you are out of the game, right? So I hence always learned that pick a super hard problem. Even if you're solving 40% of it, you're best out there. And that was very counterintuitive to how businesses were done, because consumer internet, among my IT peers, the consumer internet was the easiest thing to get started with, right? Or even B2B, if you're looking at the CRMs, were the easiest to start, most known. And here I was thinking of going something deep tech, whatever, right? And then so I met him, and I think very inspiring set of conversation over samosa and jalebis. We still fancy his balcony where we have the discussions. And we talked about things, and then we bought a whiteboard. And one day I was whiteboarding about 3 hours to him about things, that the way this business will grow and what it can potentially be. And then he said that, Ranjan, whatever you will do, I will put in money. I'm not questioning anymore about what you want to build. That's your call. And he asked me that, why should I invest money with you? And I said that, sir, I'm about 25 years richer than you. And he got aligned with the time value of things, right? And I said that given 25 more years to me, I'll be at a different place. And given 25 years past, if you have to go back, then you would do things very differently. So here's your chance and here's my chance. And fascinating sort of conversation. And I think that led to me starting this company Entropik. So he backed me with about 1 crore, and he put me that kind of faith in me. Never asked that question again, as in what you are doing, how business is going, good, bad, ugly, horrible days. He has always been there. Till today, he's the angel investor. And I kept asking him that, sir, we gotta pay you back. And he's like, let it be. I know that this will become this, that. So amazing person. So I think his confidence in me was very path breaking at that time, because I think you always have that sense of doubt, right? And then you believe that somebody who has seen it so much is trusting you with their money means something probably. That's how Entropik started.
So, but I mean, knowing that you want to do something in deep tech is still quite a distance away from an actual business. How did that happen?
So there were a few philosophies around what I want to do next, and it was more philosophical than actually in the shape of business. But that actually still stays as the boundary conditions around which we built Entropik. So for me, it was B2B, because that's what I want. I knew how to sell to. Enterprise, because they've got money. And I don't want to sweat my blood where there's no money. The third was super heavy differentiation. And the best way to institutionalize it was, we decided we'll only build things which has got IP value. If there's no IP value, then we'll not build that. So my how part was always very clear, that if there's a problem, I'm not solving it through which is substantially differentiated, I'll not do it. And the last was that it should be large enough problem and sizable enough impact to generate, and hence choose a problem which is not, a marketeer's problem or a product guy's problem, but choose something which is a human's problem. And that is as wide as your market has to be, so that you never walk into a fundraise conversation being asked for, hey, what's your market size? And you don't have a slide which is good enough, right? And then your top downs and bottoms up and all this kind of things comes in. So, and looking at all of it and thinking a lot more first principally, what I realized is that the world is going to go digital, and the nature of conversation is going to change, which means the way we have conversations one-on-one and otherwise, we measure a lot of gestures. We measure a lot of, not just about what people said, that's probably about 5% of information, but mostly about how they said it, what they said, what was the gesture, were they attentive, all that stuff, right? And then it struck to me that as we go digital and everything goes digital, this is going to change forever. How can people still have that intelligence in place? And by that, I mean, not really businesses have that intelligence, but just me and you having that conversation can have that intelligence. And then it can obviously transpire into various form factors of business, and all this will come together. So just thinking at this level and saying that hence there is a need, and there's a dire need and likely need of being able to understand human behavior and emotions in its first principle basis at scale. And can we do this? So just this much was known. It was fascinating. It was inspiring. It was profound to me. And I felt that I want to commit something like this for a good amount of time. And I researched about this space, looked at how many guys have ever cracked this, and found my hard problem statement with 10 marks cut off.
Okay. So a couple of thoughts I have here. One thought is I'm getting, you in Citrus, you realize that you're not selling to organizations, you're selling to human beings. So that would have created that mindset that it's important to be able to read human beings and their behaviors, because that will help you do sales better. So that might have been the trigger for this.
Yeah. So essentially, when I walked into sales journey of mine, my sales rate was very high, and I used to close about 80% of the deal that I'll walk into, and against about 30-40% conversion otherwise. And I think and what I realized is that my success, if I'm getting a meeting, if I get to meet someone, I'll definitely end up closing. And somehow that conviction kept on building over 2 years. And I realized a few things where I used to predict whether this guy is going to close or not, and see whether this guy closes or not. And then I learned that what are the triggers through which I realized that it is going to close or not. And those never was things that he wrote in mail or things that he said. It was always about that odd questions which he had answered in a certain way.
Give me examples of this.
You had this long chat about pricing and all things and otherwise. And then you have this weird question. A classic example, we're doing this with Common Flow. And that was about an 80 crore transaction volume deal that we are trying to do. And we are having this conversation with a guy who was a senior product manager. And pretty much the conversation was went into various things of product and stuff. And then my question was, how do you think the startup is going to do, this whole startup space, the way it is happening, is going to do down the road? And he jumped off the table and he talked about everything entrepreneurship around and everything, how the space is growing, what is going to happen, what kind of products is going to come. Is it going to be P2P? Is it going to be this, that, all sort of stuff he talked about. And he spoke 30 minutes. And we talked about it as in what I did prior to this. And he talked about what he has done prior to. It turned out both of us were entrepreneurs who turned into jobs. That one odd conversation.
You knew that he'll convert.
Yeah, I knew how he'll convert. And then there were conversations like, I think this guy was a CFO at Zoomcar, and we were having a conversation. And his question was, maybe I used to always have those, towards the end of the conversation, some trick pointers to see whether he nudges, does not nudge. And to get responses of it with facial gestures and all that coming together was always like, okay, this guy's sorted now.
Okay.
Those were some of the things that I always felt that selling is a very emotional process. In fact, decision making is emotional. We have made decisions long before we knew we have made decisions.
Oh yeah, that's so true.
And then rest of the time we are trying to find out our proof points. And who are very intuitive and left brain, they are always parallel thinkers and very, very quick at this. And you see that with limited information, the way they'll be able to make decision is crazy. And I felt that that's fascinating. That can accelerate everything, and that's very profound. And looked at so those were the things. Sort of when I started, I felt that understanding behavior is going to be so massive, so massive.
And did you think of the use case for this as like people doing sales over Zoom calls, and therefore that because the video is being recorded, so a software could give nudges to the salesperson? Like, did you think of that as a use case for it? Well, obviously, this will only work on video, right? You needed to capture video.
No, I didn't have the understanding of form factors back then, right? So I was just very super convinced by the fact that the technology is going to be massive, and it doesn't matter what form factor. And I was 2000% sure that I will build a business out of it. So I went after tech. And to start with, I started looking at, so this is the landscape of emotion or behavior, right? There's brain and you have sense organs. So brain, face, voice, eye, touch, and last is text. So these are the 7 ways in which you can ever understand behavior, because there are the only 7 things through which we express. Right?
Just go through the list again. Brain,
it's face, it's eye, it's voice, it's touch, and it's text. So these are 7 things through which we are ever going to express. I looked at how people are expressing and what kind of intelligence is built into it. So you have NLP for text. So you understand the text, how people have written and what they have written, and semantics and things built around it. So a lot of chatbot companies were working on that, and that was already an evolving space. And I said that I'm not going to approach from that side. There's a bunch of things about voice also that was happening. And I said that I'm not going to approach things from that side. The most scalable and the easiest and sort of probably the more done-dusted space was that much, the voice and the text into the 16. And I said that I want a hard problem. I want to solve it in a much more IP capture way. So I start from the other end. So I looked at brain because that's the most accurate form factor and more defined and proven sort of a thing in truly what people behave. And can we measure that? So in that, I looked at this technology called as EEG, like electroencephalogram. It has a EEG headband that one can wear. It tracks neural pulses, how your neurons are firing. And basically it gives you a bunch of the raw brainwave data called as frequency ranges and alpha, beta, gamma wave. So when you're sleeping, your alpha is very high. When you're calm, your alpha is very high. When you're anxious, your beta is very bad. Deltas are bad. So there's quite some research work that has happened into it, right? But that was never productized. And so the first thing we went about building was this software which plugs when, like, this is like your headphone, like that, it's a bag. And it plugs with like a Bluetooth with all the EEG devices and sort of tracks on a second by second basis data points like attention, engagement, emotions, happy, sad, excited, relaxed, bored. And we validated each of it. So let's say I'm watching an ad, I try to be purposefully very focused and see whether the dialers moves or not. If I'm in a happy mode, I do that. In control testing, I get 5 people disgruntled, create those scenarios, and then sort of let them wear that. So kind of a lot of immense amount of learning on neuroscience is where we went. And the first ever small tool that we created was brainwave mapping based consumer studies, right? So, and the Nielsen had a neuroscience lab back then, and Nielsen had a company they acquired called as Neurofocus, and used to use EEG devices, but they used to have manually analyzed all this data. So we had a software which gives you end outcome like attention, engagement, emotions, which can be a lot more easily applied. First set of customer, and we got using that we got part of a We Start program. Viacom 18 had an accelerator program, and we got into that, and we started testing content for them to tell them whether your movie trailers are people are attention levels are high at a certain point or low at a certain point, or where they are excited, where they're happy. that changed the way content testing was ever done for them. So we started doing that for their trailer, their episodes, their movies, their short form. So we invite the same focus group studies that they used to do, right? But essentially, instead of surveys, we said that, hey, why don't you wear this and do this in a central location kind of environment? We did this for Netflix. We did this for Amazon Prime.
These were decent clients, and Nielsen was outsourcing it to you, something like that.
No. We directly were working with these guys. So we were part of Accelerator, so we got a chance to do a couple of projects, and then that led to doing a lot of business with them. The same thing we scaled to other ones because you had a case study from Viacom.
And this Accelerator was in the US?
No, this was in India. This is Bombay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then in the same year we became part of SAP Accelerator, Accenture Accelerator, Target Retail, and pretty much about 8 or 10 accelerator programs we were part of. So a lot of giant corporates where the verticals and the horizontals were there, and I think we had a depth and uniqueness of the tech. And those two sort of came beautifully to get my first 20 customers. Because they had ready customers who were having these problem statements, and these were large. All we had to do this is, this fancy Magneto stuff you wear and you talk about it and you show the demo, and everyone loved it, right? And they tried, and they just had to believe the power of tech, and when it happens, everyone loved it, and a lot of them were very fascinated. Coke CEO, we met, I think, a bunch of companies CEOs who used to come in. Accenture, we were the poster guys to actually go out and, wear the headset and do this, right? So this demo, and it was very experiential in nature. So kind of that happened. And as we started doing that.
What was the timeline for this? Like when you got into all these?
This was 2017. 16 we started, 17 is when.
And you were using your cash out from Citrus for funding this?
Yeah. So all money that I had got, including what my wife had got, right? So we put it. She was like, you took out my ESOP money, you also took out your ESOP money. Right? I said that. Yeah. But and then,
one more question I want to ask. EEG is it's like a very much in use medical device, or is it a niche device? Like would you find, if I walk into a hospital, for example, would I find an EEG there? Like what's the use case for an EEG?
So EEG has got various grades, and the med grade of it is something that is being used by most of the neuroscience departments in the hospitals. Basically, it's a scanner to your mental activity, and you have a clinical grade 512 channel EEG, which is like a cap with lobes and wires, right?
There's a lot of connections that they do to your head. Okay.
So that is basically to do it's like an effective scanner. So MRI is much more upgraded version. EEG is a lot more portable version of that. That's been used clinically and in academia and research.
What does a doctor want from an EEG test? Like, what does it help him diagnose?
So
what data does it give to a doctor?
So it gives doctor a data sense of which parts of your brains are a lot more triggered. If there's an inconsistent, measure anxiety, measure epilepsy, measure dyslexia. Those are some of the things that they use it for. But there is a lot more portable. This was a 512 channel kind of EEG device, which is a cap and makes you look like a lab rat. But there is a 3-channel version of it, which a company as NeuroSky had launched, which is just like a band what can wear and like a headphone, right? So it's a lot more portable, and people did find it difficult. Also, clinically, what is being used is wet electrodes. So it essentially, they'll put in glues like they put in for your ECG, like that. There's ECG, right? And this dry version was like very simple band and totally safe and all things, right? So,
but no contact with the skin needed.
Contact with skin in it and those kind of stuff. So it was super powerful. And then I think building a software stack on this, that was immensely valuable.
And how much does this device cost? This new device, which
it's $100 device.
$100.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And it was very cost effective, right? So $100 is the cost of hardware, and you can use it regularly over any numbers of sessions. And a Viacom agent will pay you bomb for doing this kind of testing with 100 people, right? And, and so what we started doing with Viacom was on content testing. What we started doing with Accenture was a lot of UX testing on the website, mobile apps.
Okay, so somebody would wear that band and browse a website, so you can see if he's getting frustrated by the experience or if he's getting delighted.
We also understood at what point in time they were frustrated and excited, because I was having a screen recording going on. So I know that at a point where you have to make a purchase or make this search, you are not able to find out, right? And those are the points where the peaks are coming. So it was a lot more pinpointed, actionable to UX guys, content guys and creative director. It was very pinpointed. Okay, whenever this character comes in, this person goes out of the box, right? He's going searching all the brainwave data. So the actionability of it was super critical to them, right? Because you do a A/B testing and at test you get like A is greater than B. These guys are, okay, what is not working? Chal kya nahi raha hai? So they get a lot more precise value. And then we worked with Tata Consumer Care using EEG. And so today there's a brand called as Tata Sampann. They were trying to launch it, and they were struggling with all things, right from logo to package design to all sort of stuff. So we did a testing where we created this virtual 360-degree virtual environment, and you're wearing this Oculus, and then you're wearing that EEG, and you're walking in the store. As you're doing so, we are tracking your neural response of as you're walking into the aisles of the store. So if you are looking at a certain product and your neural senses are going up, which means that you're noticing it. So we got a very detailed view of how shopper research or shopper study was done. So I had content testing or ad testing. I had shopper research and shopper testing. We have done UX testing. And last was we worked with ITC because it was my old customers for product testing as well. So they had Lays and Bingo and bunch of these chips as you are eating, what kind of sensory movements are happening, and then how do you, So 4 use cases were ready: UX, product, and shopper and ads. As we did so, we had a decent ad hoc business, which was project by project running by the time we hit 2018. We did about 4 or 5 crores of business. And
I have one more question about the product. Were there like a standard set of parameters on which some sort of graph would be built with a time series on it? What were those parameters like?
So it was attention. It was engagement. Some of them also call it excitement value as such. And then there was 5 emotions: happy, sad, excited, relaxed, and bored. So out of this 5 emotions, 2 are positive, 2 are negative. So happy and excited are positive. No, happy and relaxed is positive. Bored and sad is negative, and 1 is neutral. And between happy and relaxed also, 1 is high intense emotion, second is low intense emotion. So you're looking at a valence to intensity, kind of a 2x2 matrix. And each of this is 1 pointing to that. So
I don't understand that word valence. What do you mean by that?
Valence is a measure of positive emotions. So high valence is high positive, low valence is low positive. And intensity is how intensely you felt it, right? So happy is a very positive, very high intense emotion. But look at relaxed. Relaxed is a very positive emotion, but low in intensity. Likewise, bored is a negative emotion, but low in intensity. And sad is a extreme end of emotion. So this is called a circumplex model of emotion. So we started mapping 1 point in each plot.
And there would be like a time series and the graph would be going up and down. Like at this point, the happy went up, or at this point, the sad spiked. And for content testing, even sad would be good, right? Because often right, they want you to have intense emotions, be it positive or negative.
So one of the things we actually broke the myth for some of the content companies, including when we worked with Star, we worked with Viacom, and was that there was happy people does not lead to conversions, right? It was the happy emotion that leads to conversion. So I think the learning was, and we did bunch of testing for them. And one of the creative directors and the CMOs were there. And usually creative people are always very egoistic that, hey, I have building shows for 25 years. Right? Don't bring a technology and tell me this. Right? So you can't overstep onto that field, but kind of, we got data of about last 3 projects, and we got in everyone in the room and CMOs and everyone. I said that.
So a project here is like a TV show or just an ad film? Like what were you testing? The full series, a full movie?
We do the pilot episode testing, or if the show is not doing good, last few episode testing. You also do trailers or promos, short forms. So you start at a concept stage when you just have scripts and you are building animatic out of it, and from there you test, and then you subsequently, because once you have produced something, it's hard to go back, right? You have paid money to Salman Khan. So we went to that, and I called everyone in the room and we said that here's the most path-breaking thing that you're going to listen to. And we got in all this data and showed exactly that it's not the happy emotion that's driving the content. It's the swing between happy to negative that is driving the content. So bigger the delta, the better the shows are there for you. And the way we had done is that every time this shows went air, we actually got the Bark rating of theirs and TAM rating of theirs. So Bark has got a rating system that they get every week.
Bark rating is like viewership, is it? Like how many people watched? Okay.
So you have your viewership data once the show is live, and every week they get the data from Bark or TAM, and we got this data together, and we sort of put it together to put a correlation, and it showed that 95% time it is matching with a swing between the emotions. So that's massive. And I think more than anything, I used to be very thrilled at these outcomes, right? Like, oh, I have found my eureka moment. This is path breaking. This is disruptive. So I got a meeting with CEO of TAM. TAM is a competitor to Bark, and to TAM CEO LV Krishnan.
When just for the listeners to listen, so TAM essentially has viewers all over the country, like anonymous viewers, and they install some device so that they can track what the viewer is watching, and then they create a rating for different shows. Like this show was viewed how much, or they give some sort of ranking or something like that.
Yeah. So I met LV Krishnan, TAM CEO, and I showed the same outcome to him, and he was jumping off his chair that, hey, this is massive, because this has got ability to first time being proven science-wise kind of positioning of rating system that has not happened. And also some of these companies like TAM and Bark were put under scanner for a long time in terms of, are you really getting the rating right? Like broadcasters to continuously put that pressure on them. And while they do their job, but there's it's essentially a sample group data. So and they have a very wide panel coverage. So what we did a project with TAM was we ran this test of content. So they had a huge repository of content, and they also had a huge number of panel. And TAM is a Nielsen subsidiary. It's a JP Nielsen and Kanta. So we did with their panel a large set of exercise of benchmarking, where with over 100,000 users, we went about testing about 150 odd shows with them. And then we created a benchmark around which we got the results, and 92% time we were able to correlate what leads to what. And we try to reverse engineer that to create a predictive system and get a content in, and can I predict whether it's likely to do good or not? And what are the elements which is not likely to do good? And we could find that to a good judgment. But
you put the device on 100,000 viewers. That is massive.
So 100,000 users across a period of a year, right? Okay. So a lot of these were already their panels, right? The for various projects that they would do. So we got it, and then for about 150 odd content, we did this. So each content is watched by a certain number of people, right? 100 or 100. So we did this, and we got this data together, and with that, we found it very exciting, and we went back to a lot of these broadcasters, and they liked what we do, and creative directors hated us because you have the predictive system of what is likely to work and not work, and there's art to it, and there's not only science to it. So all this kind of, and we took our positioning saying that we are just a voice of customer. We're not saying what to do. We're just presenting things. And So I think that was a great learning. But as we went about this, right, and I think one of the things that you realize that there's a lot of manual stuff, right? So you have this was purely science driving value, and see, as a process of doing this for a year and a half, I think, and I was very fascinated about the first principle reasoning. I always felt that scale, all things we will achieve, all that is fine. But at the first principle level, is the value enough proven? Is it disruptive enough? And is that value substantial for those guys to pay money, right? And what is that quantum money looks like? Uh, and what is the acceptance of the outcome? And is it consistent enough? These are the things that I wanted to check from a use case value proposition, right? And at a highest level to a CMO, to a creative director and stuff. Once I had these data points, and when we were saying about there's a show for which we did this, the show went live, it started seeing 3x viewership than it was in past. There were promos on which $1 million was spent prior to the launch, and they had 6 versions of the promos, various kinds of trailers that are coming out, and we selected that these are the 2 that you got to bet your money on. And we saved about $350,000 at a scale of 1 million. So 35% kind of ROI lift on our decision making by bringing data into the picture, right? So that is the value that we got substantiated. And it was massive to see. With consumer care, Tata Consumer Care, we could see them making a decision where the new pack has got 47% more pickup lift from the stores. And this is the Star Bazaar store for which they had the track of data. They launched subsequently that whole pack design for about 13,000 SKUs. So basically with Tata Consumer Care, we could get about package design insights was giving me 47% more lift on pickup rates. They launched it for 13,000 SKUs and the value was proven. With Accenture, all this process took about 3 years to us, and 2018 was a time when the value proposition was very clear to us. Like, this is strong value. And then for the first time, I downloaded the consumer research market landscape and market size report. And I saw that till then it was just, okay, I don't know enough because I didn't want to know. I didn't want to know what the report says because I just want to figure out myself. And about that, it's a $80 billion market, consumer research. There are 2 ways it is being done. One is surveys where I ask you a question of A versus B, what you like on a scale of 10. People have always answered 8.5 and you don't get a clear actionable. The second is I do this focus group discussion and interviews where you get a bit of bias, but then people say what you want to hear. So bias is a big problem. Automation is a big problem. So then we looked at more market way of doing things. And meanwhile, 17, 18, we learned that hardware is going to be inhibited to scale. So how can I get the same outcome using without the hardware, right? So I start looking at computer vision, the facial coding. Using camera, can I analyze the face expression? The companies like Effective and Realize It were tried in past, looked at their papers and stuff, understood their bottlenecks. All of them had trained on face image datasets. So the face, we analyze 58 odd gestures and expression, and that is what the model is built on. We had an advantage of brainwave. So we went about cross-training facial coding data, face expression data with brain data, which means what a face is saying at any point in time and what my brain is saying at any point in time. Does this match? Does this vary? And my training model should comprise of cross-training these 2. It solved 2 very state-of-art problems that no one ever has solved. One is, how do you deal with poker face? And we realized that there is a set of micro expressions for which we had never been able to label because it was not possible to label. There was no reference point source to label. But when you have a brainwave data, you were able to label. Second, we were able to deal with cultural nuances a lot better. Of a Caucasian face versus a different kind of face actually had very different meaning to things. But fortunately, unfortunately, brain is constant across human race, face is not. So you can bring a lot more robustness into your data model. And we ran this test and we lead to cross-passing some of the accuracies than anyone ever had. So facial coding, this is how we got built. As we built facial coding, because we're capturing the face expression.
One question from like, this is machine learning through which you built this. That takes a lot of data, right? So that meant that you were recording videos of people as they were doing the market research, like somebody who is testing a UX.
Yeah, what we started with while we were just doing brainwave mapping, but what we started with doing is saying that this was a lot more controlled test where we invested to get in users and do these tests where I will capture both brainwave data and face data. Take the user consent to do that both. So this was the process for us to get that. And it was an investment from our side. As we got to that point from facial coding, a certain level of maturity, we realized that from facial coding, what you get to understand is that, let's say this video is running at 5th second to 12th second is where your attention is low. But in that 5th to 12th second, there's so many frames and things coming. Can my insight be more granular? And then we started looking at eye tracking. So eye tracking gives me ability to tell you heat map wise where exactly people were looking at any particular point. So that gives me a sense now that, okay, when your attention was low, you were looking at Shah Rukh Khan and not the product. Likewise, when you are in UX, when you're looking at the product image or reviews is when your attention was highest. And likewise, in package design, you were actually looking at Sanjeev Kapoor in that Tata Sampann package brand than anything else. So with that, what exactly was driving that is what eye tracking brought in. So that's how facial coding and eye tracking together become the most powerful combo. And with all the customers, we replaced brainwave mapping to these two, proving out that this gives the same outcome at scale. The only thing that we had to do is increase the number of respondents a bit. Brainwave mapping used to be with 30 people. This was happening with 150 people to capture a larger trend. We are about 92% accurate in each of these technologies. We launched world's first mobile-based eye tracking. And power of multimodal emotion, which is brain, face, voice, eye together, I think has always been our winner. Gartner quoted as world's first multimodal emotion AI player. And some of these happened, and 19 is when we launched platform called as Effect Lab, which is a more SaaS platform, consumer research SaaS platform, which takes care of all your content testing, ad testing, shopper research, package testing, all that stuff at one platform. And it's a SaaS. And we said that, hey, head of consumer insights, here's a product which is a one-stop solution replacing all your surveys that you have been doing for past. And this sells to CM organization within brands. They have the larger appetite. Same to content and broadcasting industry. And the same carve out of that, we call it Affect UX. That is something we sold to all the digital first companies on the product of, and to say that you have a user research team and a UX team. This might got more insights into how you actually, and this become my SaaS proposition, so to say. So 19, we launched Effect Lab, 20, we launched Effect UX.
When I want to understand these products a little better. So how it would work is like, if I land on a website, then the website will take permission to view my camera feed. And so,
the way it works is that essentially, let's say a consumer insights manager of a PNG wants to test out ad, they configure all that and launch. The link goes to the user. So we have about 60 million respondents across 120 countries as part of my platform. So now we're dealing with all online users, no offline stuff, right? So these users will get a link. You click on that link. It asks for camera permission. You turn the camera and you watch the ad. That's it. As you watch the ad, I track your face expression, eye movement, all that. And I have that all that coming into the dashboard. So to brands, they can see slice and dice data the way they want. Likewise, and doesn't matter, it was ad and hence ad testing, had it been a UX or a package design. The only this we can do is product testing, because product testing is like you're eating Lays or having Coke.
Yeah. Okay. Right. That, while consumption is happening, that is hard to. Okay.
Yeah. Anything audio, visual, and stimulus is what we can. So that is what the SaaS platform is about. So Effect Lab, something that we launched in.
How did you build a 60 million pool of respondents?
We didn't build. There are companies which are in business of building the panel. So you have Dynita, Lucid, Cint. These are the guys who anyways these brands use. So what we did was we natively integrated all their panels in our platform and all taken together. This is the size for what matters to brand. They're getting all respondent at one place. So that's what we do.
So like the brand needs to pay these panel companies separately and pay you separately?
No, they pay us, we take care of everything.
Okay.
2019 was Effect Lab. Launched it as a SaaS platform. First time hired a sales team. Till then, we didn't have a sales team ever. I was the sales guy with few SDRs as such. And we were not trying to sell, we were trying to see the value. And 19 onwards, we started selling. And Effect UX was launched in 2020. As we launched these two things and pandemic hit, and then while these were scaling in its own, and we got sales team and GTM motions and all things together, something very interesting happened during pandemic. In addition to quantitative surveys that people used to do, which got replaced by Effect Lab and Effect UX respectively, people were also doing this qualitative research, right? So your direct interviews and focus group discussions. And also, so that all went remote. There was no focus group discussion, which was in person during pandemic. And people could see that it is 50% cheaper. It's a lot more fast, a lot more detailed. Brands were loving it. And it is coming at such low cost with software. And the company like Suzy and people are using Zoom and Teams and all this stuff that people started using. And that was a massive surge of volumes. So every brand started talking to us that, hey, do you have something around this? And I remember that your facial coding and eye tracking, can you analyze this video conversations and stuff? And quickly pivoted to start investing into voice because voice was the missing component. And we said that we have brain, face, eye, get into voice. So with voice, what we did, speech to text is done dusted. So we bought third parties. And voice tonality is where we started putting our R&D efforts to say that it is not just about what is being said, it is about how it's being said. So in about 6 months into pandemic, we were done with voice tonality to a greater bit because the data was already there and we had validation mechanisms already in place. So first version of voice tonality we got out, and 2020 is
what are the voice tonality also measures those same 5 parameters that you mentioned?
Okay. Voice tonality basically measures 2 things. It's basically to do with confidence score, which means what is the truthness in what you are saying, right? With what confidence you are saying what you're saying. Yes, I might say, I like the Pepsi, or I can say, I really like the Pepsi, right? So these are different things to say. But so kind of, we analyze voice tonality and then
you said 2 things. One is confidence. What's the second?
Second is more of a directional emotion, which is positive or negative by voice tonality.
Okay.
And so kind of...
And this was again machine learning, like trained through machine learning?
Learning. This is again machine learning.
Okay.
Our facial coding...
How was the data labeled? Like you need labeling, right? You need raw data and then you need some labeling for the algorithm to learn.
Yeah. So fortunately, we had a fair bit of recordings from our past, whatever qualitative interview that used to follow after content testing that we used to do. And we had those and we had also corresponding outcomes in terms of emotions. So by brain and face, right? So that became my reference point to begin with. And some of these cross training sort of got us faster than anything. And then subsequently, we obviously went about having our own labeling mechanisms and things. And voice is still a work in progress, but I think we fairly solved to a certain extent that. The speech to text was fairly done dusted. So we looked at the major stacks and we sort of got them together. So with these together, we said that, okay, all the consumer interviews that's happening is a quick upsell for me to all the customers, existing customer brands that we work with. So we launched something called as a decode as a product. It's launched in 2021. What it does is that it allows you to, and it plugs with whether you are using Zoom, Teams, any of the video conversation platform. It essentially, you can take those interviews there. It essentially streams in all videos from there. All that comes together in this one single library, and it analyzes your face, voice, speech to text, everything. And things which are of relevance, it picks it up, creates highlights. So you have an auto-generated sort of a dashboard, which gives you a quick sense of what actually happened in the conversation. And then it became like a super hit for all the brands. For their qualitative research of what they were using. Zoom interviews, then they'll send someone to transcribe, who will give them an insight and put a PPT. Now you have a single system of recorded intelligence within your system itself, right? So one of the things is brand always get from agency PPTs. They were like, how can intelligence sit at my end? Because every next year I do the same project which I did last year. So, that's been our advent so far.
And how does it work? Like, is it that in the Zoom call itself, there is an agent, like an Entropic agent, which is participating?
So there are two ways it works. One
or is it an upload?
No, so there are two ways it works. One is that you can upload videos on my platform, Decode, and it analyzes everything. Second is you can authenticate your Zoom account. We have a plugin already. So you authenticate, and any conversation that happens through that agent comes to our repository over here. So it's a pull basically. And the third way is that we also have our own video conferencing platform. So essentially you can run everything on my platform and it automatically sort of streams in everything. We give that flexibility to customer because we realize that you are in some platform, Zoom and Teams, you are not going to switch today. So kind of have that choice. Ours is built with a lot more focus group approach with moderations and things built into it. But inside component is all the same for all means. So this is how Decode works. And 21 December we launched. About 12% of our revenue is actually today done by in Decode. And as we go forward, what it looks like is so what we are covering is the CMO and CPO bucket within the brands, and I think very interesting happening as we launch Decode. This brings back to your first question that you asked, right? How do you analyze sales conversation? This is a straight fit, right? And then massive amount of inserts into leads, which is asking about, can I use this for sales and contact center conversation? Because all sales conversations have gone remote. And I want two things out of it. Can you help me insights with training my sales guys? Or can you help with getting the purchase intent of the lead? These are the two things can I do. So we're thinking of CMO, CPO at product and now sales organization to cover. We also get a lot of interest from hiring functions. Can I use this to analyze the video resumes or candidate interviews and all? We're not yet touching it. Still a very open kind of topic. But I think sales looks a lot more immediate. The question of why we didn't go to sales first, we went to businesses where we have a tighter consent, right? If through panel I have a tighter consent. Sales conversation, we're still not accepted that, hey, how come you go about analyzing my facial expressions?
Yeah. In 2017, it was unimaginable.
Yeah, but post-pandemic, I see that movement being there. But while you still store your contact center call recordings, people are still finding that for whatever purpose, training and purpose that they say. I think that consent is where it was, right? And then we are trying to time our things around it. So yeah, I think that's where we are. I think we have perfected tech to a fair bit. I think last three years has been taking it to various product, shaping up and sort of taking it out market. Today we operate in 4 geographies: US, Europe, Southeast Asia, India plus Middle East. These are the 4 P&Ls for us. 70 people, 80 people sales team, and about 120 people engineering product functions, about 200 people at company. In the process of doing so, we have about 17 patents. We raised 2 rounds of capital, and then kind of built a fairly amazing set of leadership team, which is driving each of these geographies and growth and sales and success and product as such. So feel that we are a lot more ready for next phase that we're going to go.
I want to ask 1 or 2 questions on product and then I'll come to the other area. So this is a pure self-serve product. Like, what is the customer journey? Like, do they sign up for is it like a freemium sign up for 15-day trial and then you pay, or like, tell me about that. Like,
so it's not a freemium. It's a very super enterprise product. So it's a very demo-led subscription, where you do demo, and at large enterprise, you might have a small POC to be done and then you sort of get it. But By usage, it is fairly straightforward. You log in and you can do everything together. So it's very simple. You go and create a campaign of your, launch it, get all the insights together.
So create a campaign, like say, I want to test a piece of content. So then I'll upload that piece of content. I'll choose a demographic.
Correct. You will choose the demographic. You want to set out some sort of a post survey. Also, you can you want to capture something, you want to capture some code and all that you can do. And you can launch the test and the results will start coming in together. As the results are in, you can dashboard automatically and allows you to analyze data by user types, and you can compare between ad 1 versus ad 2 versus ad 3 or past project or campaign. You also have a benchmark scores of ours. Like we have tested 100,000 odd videos in past. So you will get to that within, let's say, personal care as a category. What does the benchmark of Effect Lab score looks like? And then how far or good I am against that, right? So it gives you a sense of how good or bad this is. And then you get a time series graph of deep dive analyzing, as in what people actually disliked, and eye track map of where people were looking, not looking. You want to aggregate by elements within the video, you can do so, which means I want to know how many times people look at Shah Rukh Khan, you can know that. So you can circle the objects, and those object files and insights is what you can have. And then this insights, all of that you can bundle and drag and drop, and you can get a insights report generated. You can collaborate with your other teams within the organization, within the platform itself, to actually get all of this set up, that share these insights. So fair amount of collaborative element built into it. Subsequently, doing a decode kind of a qualitative research. So both the research sits at one end. So for you, it is a single source of truth across all customer reviews and insights. So it's a self-serve tool, but I think brands are transitioning from, particularly Indian brands are transitioning from more agency-led model to this. So we have a customer success team which sort of onboards them for 3 weeks. A little bit of hand-holding is there. So not like a fully self-serve, but with a fair amount of customer success support, they are doing it right.
You also said that you are looking to judge purchase intent for sales conversations. What would be the way to do that? Like,
so primarily same as what decode is today, right? You have qualitative interviews. Instead of that, you will have sales conversation. So essentially, you stream in all these video conversations that people are having, sales reps are having, analyze all that, and basically make sense out of it in terms of what expressions are the winner expressions and what expressions are not the winner expressions. That gives you a sense of intent. And second is, if there are 100 sales guys that are using this product, essentially what the best sales guy is doing on their voice modulation and their way of representation and pitching that the other guy is not doing. Things like talk time, who's speaking how much, are you listening even or not? Even to the extent of what was said with what confidence level. Probably you're saying a lot of things, but not with a higher confidence. Or things like you're not cheerful, right? People want to see cheerful people. Or you were hesitant or sort of distressed at certain point in time in your conversations. Can you make that right? And what that was exactly leading to? How did you respond to objections that came from a customer call? So I think those are the things that are powerful values.
have you built that algorithm which can predict, or is it work in progress? Like it's currently being trained?
No, so there's a pure analytics, right? So I'm just going to build a system which provides you insights about where people were hesitant, where they were excited, where they were not, right? And then the next step will come as in what together as characteristics it means to have a winning conversation. So I think right now we are still at an analytics level than a predictive or a prescriptive level.
I want to understand how you scaled it up from the perspective of selling. Like,
Sure.
You have a global presence now. How did you scale it to different countries? What is the way in which is it through digital marketing, or is it through like, like a salesperson who reaches out and...
Yeah. So no, we sort of, what we did was we got a first set of team of SDRs in place to begin with, and that was serving across geos. And then we were part of about 10 to 12 accelerator programs from where we were getting early customer access, and we were able to demo and pitch to them. So Accenture had the bunch of customers, SAP had the bunch of customers, and that became our primary first point of connecting, initiating, and having conversation with customers. That was the first GTM motion we ever did to launch into newer markets. And as we got a few early set of customers into each of these geographies, when we actually went about hiring a team into these geographies, and largely these teams have been guys who are selling software to brands in past. So pretty much guys who have done SaaS, enterprise and all that, and build a fair amount of team out with each of these guys. So my AEs and sales directors and VPs are all in respective regions. My SDR team is based out of India, and that's how we operate.
What is the difference between SDR and AE? SDR is the one who
So SDR is a prospecting team whose goal is to build
outbound
pipeline. Yeah, outbound, and they build pipeline. The sales qualified outbound value is their KPI, and the AA team sort of takes it up from there and sort of tries to convert it. And AA team has got a number quota. This is your quarterly targets and stuff. So both of them have different goals. I think the skill sets are very different, and I learned back from my sales days that prospecting is a very different skill. If you run wider, then that person who is to close should never prospect, which means that because if you're prospecting and you're only closing, then you are more interested in closing than prospecting, and you're very likely to ask for marriage in the first date. Nobody likes that, right? So, you see this tendency in sales guys that they will get into the first kills and there's like, hey, here's emotion AI, here's facial coding. This is the most amazing thing ever happened on the planet. And would you like to marry me? And they're like, no, not yet. Hold on. Right. So prospecting is nice and easy. Just go have a conversation. Don't try to close.
Okay. Prospecting, the goal is to say, okay, would you like a demo? That's the goal of prospecting. Okay.
Yeah, you have that, and you have that demo and just say that. So I think the difference between the services selling or the selling that we used to do in past was, hey, what is your need? I'm here to solve that. Versus now saying that, hey, I've built this. Do you need this? Right. And then if you are not, then thank you. It was great catching up and move quickly. So finding the right guy is a lot more valuable than actually going about solving everything that a customer might have. So the service to product mindset and hence the sales alignment to it is super.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the AEs or the account executives are the ones who convert the deal. Then do you have like a customer success team which does the hand-holding? Once
the deal is won, then there's a customer success, does about 3 weeks of onboarding, get a customer aligned and sort of work along with them with usual cadences that is in place. And that's a usual cycle. We also have a professional services team of consumer insights professionals who, let's say, out of the platform, if some of this customer says that, hey, I want a consulting support from your side of analyzing data much more, fine-tuning it in a certain way, which is very customizable, then this is a team which is basically researchers from the agencies and the brands in past and who understand and know the language of brands, and they are the ones who sort of helps them out. This team is also a knowledge house of domain in our company. So all the sales guys and everyone gets trained by them in terms of what you should speak if you're in France.
Okay, got it. And how do you price it?
So it's priced on it's standard SaaS pricing. It's a one-time onboarding fee. You have a platform subscription fee. On top of it, a usage model, and then there's professional services.
But what is the on what metrics is the usage price? Like, is it per
campaign
respondent?
Per campaign.
Okay.
So per campaign is defined as 150 respondents. That is usually what people use for. Basically, one stimulus is what a campaign means, right? One ad you want to test over 150 people. What does it cost like?
Okay. And what is the ballpark range for a campaign?
Well, yeah, a campaign of 150 respondent is about $750 for you. And you have a one-time platform license fee of about $15,000, so, which is annual in nature. So more you use, the better your ROI economics looks like.
Mm. Okay. Is it I mean, how hard is selling it? That 15,000 one-time cost seems like a hard sell.
Mhm. No, I think it depends upon what you're selling against, right? And hence we have arrived at pricing. If you look at what a brand spends today, let me give you an example. If a brand in India is doing a typical 150 respondent kind of such a project, minus technology and all, just the usual quantitative and qualitative survey, they're spending about 7 to 8 lakhs doing this across both quantitative and qualitative interviews. You're spending about 7 to 8 lakhs testing out one advertisement or one of these things. Let's say a set of 5 into that, maybe. One project, essentially one objective. That's easily about $12,000, right? And with respondent all taken together. If you are doing 10 of such, then essentially you're spending 120,000 in a year. What I'm asking is pay $15,000 as this license, and then use everything else. My project is 750-year project, which is not even 50,000 rupees. It's close to about 60,000 rupee rather. So if you are doing now about 10 of such campaigns, then you have a $7,500 on campaigns and you have $15,000 otherwise. That's your $22,000, and $22,500 is about 20 lakhs for you against spend that you were otherwise doing on 10 campaigns. So like to like wise, it becomes effectively a 30% kind of a price, 70% kind of saving overall, with a lot more tech, a lot more insights, a lot more everything, right? So I think we never see price being a constraint. It does not look a hard sell because as a scenario is way too costly.
So as a founder, do you see yourself as the product guy or the sales guy? Or, what is your role?
My role is, I have been always a sales guy, but I think these days, I think I'm trying to be a good listener and better judge of people and culture. That's what I'm trying to focus on, but always been a sales guy. But I feel that I connect to sales a lot more than anything.
Yeah, and what were some of your top 3 learnings in this journey of building Entropik? Things which you realized that you needed to change in yourself?
Yeah, I think first was letting it go, right? That you can't do everything yourself, and hence, howsoever passionate you are about something, you have to have people who do it better than you. So that was first, and I think something which is very close to you, letting it go at times becomes hard, and that does not scale as well. So I think what makes you great in early days does not make you efficient down the road. So I think that was important. I think second was the lighter you are on your feet, the better you are likely to do. So your ability to shift gears in the day is super important. On a very turbulent day, can you stay calm and then quickly be very, again, back to turbulence? Can you handle that? So that was just my personal growth element, to be able to maneuver through that. Because managing your emotion is a superpower. If you can do that, that's amazing. I don't think I'm great at it yet. Right. And it consumes your times, right? Like as a startup, it consumes your time. Third thing which I learned is that I think it is not a new learning, but it always stayed true that time is a crazy variable. Be very cognizant of timing. The magnitude of disaster is nothing in comparison to timing of disaster. So it's a small thing, bad timing can screw up so bad as compared to a huge thing on okay time. So stay very upright and cognizant to timing. That's sort of I felt means that's just something I feel as founder. I got to be doing that very often.
Amazing. Like being intuitively aware of whether this is good timing, bad timing of decisions, of things happening and so on.
Yeah.
Like that's something which you developed as a founder.
Yeah. I feel that, most of the decisions that I see I've made or I try to make, you are doing that with very limited information. And I think you can never make a correct decision in its totality. So the only thing you can really have a good gauge on, is it the right time to make this decision or not? And is it a delayed time to make this decision or not? If you are, if you're 100% on that, and if you're even 30% on the quality of decision, you will do good. So time is most of the time missed out dimension of decision making, I think. Yeah.
Fascinating. That's amazing. And that brings us to the end of this conversation. I want to ask you for a favor now. Did you like listening to this show? I'd love to hear your feedback about it. Do you have your own startup ideas? I'd love to hear them. Do you have questions for any of the guests that you heard about in this show? I'd love to get your questions and pass them on to the guests. Write to me at ad@thepodium.in. That's ad@thepodium.in.